Before we start with the topic of reading speed and before we assess your current reading speed, let's first take a closer look on reading in general. So, what is reading and how do we do it? When you look for a definition, you'll often find something like that reading is a complex cognitive process of decoding symbols to derive meaning. That means that reading doesn't happen on the page that you read or the device that you read from, but it happens in your brain because the meaning needs to be decoded in your brain first. That's why the same text can have a different meaning depending on the person who's reading it. Different persons can interpret the same text differently, and that often has to do with their previous knowledge and ideals. So the main aim of reading overall is that we read in order to understand. We try to understand as much as possible in as little time as possible. If, for example, you're reading a non-fiction book, you will try to understand as much as possible in order to get a maximum benefit. Because you want to know, for example, how something works or how to do something. For fiction, it's a little different, but not much. Here your aim will most likely be to be able to follow the plot. You want the story to unfold in your brain or in your eyes as naturally as possible. And in order to be able to do that, you want to understand as much as possible in as little time as possible. So you can see in both cases, both non-fiction and fiction, our main aim is to understand as much as possible in as little time as possible. And that's where speed reading comes in, because speed reading helps you achieve both of these things. Imagine your brain like a computer and the text as the programming language. Your brain or the computer first needs to convert what it can see into something that it can work with. So the computer does this by converting the programming language into zeros and ones. And your brain does this by converting the words, phrases and sentences from the text into actual meaning. So how do we do that? How do we read? Basically, there are 5 stages of reading, and in our next lesson we will take a closer look on each individual stage. Spoiler alert, most of us haven't even reached stage 4. But more about that in our next video.